Purdue falls to Notre Dame in South Bend, but it wasn't all bad.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Boilermakers here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I am your host. I am Nick Arvin, and over the weekend, we saw Notre Dame take down Purdue 56-30. We're talking about it today, my reaction. But first, today's episode is brought to y'all by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. So, like I said, Purdue, they travel down to South Bend for the second week in a row. Purdue has a huge rain delay. I think it was 3 hours once again. So, Purdue can't catch a break. To watch these games, you got to devote 6 or 7 hours of your Saturday. But, Purdue, they go into South Bend. And in the first half, a lot of the same from last week. Purdue, they get in a hole early, courtesy of a big Notre Dame touchdown. But this week, Purdue instantly answers on the offensive side of the ball. That's with Ryan Browne. Ryan Browne, he leads that drive all the way down to about the 6-yard line, hands it off to Mockabee, and then Mockabee flicks it back to Ryan Browne on the left side, and he takes it in for a Purdue touchdown. One of the craziest plays that I've ever seen. Barry Odom and the Purdue coordinators are reinventing the game of football on a day-to-day basis. Last week, we saw that crazy one where Michael Jackson, he throws it back. Ryan Browne takes it in for a touchdown. Another crazy Ryan Browne touchdown this week. This one counts as a receiving touchdown for him. But just crazy touchdowns. This one looked a lot prettier than the one against USC. This one was a lot more coordinated at that. But so a fun moment, but ultimately Purdue's defense just wasn't able to stop the Notre Dame offense. And we kind of had that idea. We know how good Notre Dame's offense is played against A&M, like 40 points, 27 against Miami, I believe. Those numbers may be a bit off, but ultimately we know that that offense is really good. We know that they have a group of running backs that are just about the best in the nation. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price. Those guys had their way. Jadarian Price, only 9 carries, had 74 yards, averaging 8.2. He had 3 touchdowns. And then Jeremiah Love, 19 carries, 157, 2 touchdowns, and right about the same average, 8.3 yards per carry. So those guys, they ran it up the field time and time again before the break, after the break. And ultimately, Notre Dame, they scored 56 points. So you can't win when you let up 56 points at any level of football, anytime, anywhere. You just can't win games like that. That's not a formula that's going to win you a lot of football games. So we know that Purdue needs to be better from that standpoint. But once again, it's Notre Dame. We knew going into this one out South Bend, with Notre Dame being 0-2 on the year, they needed to play as hard as they absolutely could. And they had a good identity. They did the things the right way. We talked about how they're going to want to get it done on the running game with Price, with Love. And they did. They took advantage of Purdue, that opening drive. They sold the run, and then C.J. Carr fired it downfield for an opening touchdown on the first play of the drive, I believe. Just defensively for Purdue, they weren't all in sync. A lot of credit to Notre Dame, though. That offense is absolutely electric. What a bounce back for that offense. They were good the first 2 weeks, but when you can't win those first 2 games, great bounce back for Notre Dame. That offense, especially C.J. Carr, who was composed, didn't throw the ball a whole lot, 10 for 12, but he was good when he did. And Purdue's defense weren't able to keep them in this game. But here are my takeaways. Obviously, we know about the defense. We're going to talk about the defense. We got a bye week, so we got 2 weeks to talk about the defense before Purdue takes on Illinois. But that's obviously the takeaway from this game. But another takeaway is the play of Ryan Browne. There were some question marks last week. He throws 3 interceptions against USC, whether he's going to be the guy, whether Singleton should get a shot. And I said that was absolutely insane. Although Ryan Browne threw 3 interceptions, that's something that's going to be able to get worked out. They were very Two of them were kind of rough. The other interception against USC wasn't too bad, but in general, it's stuff that gets worked out. But what you can't change is the competitive spirit that Ryan Browne has. And he carried that competitive spirit into Notre Dame, and he had a solid day, I thought. Ryan Browne threw for 250 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and got that receiving touchdown on the Maccabee passing touchdown, funny enough. But I think that this game solidified Ryan Browne as a baller, as the statement guy for this program. And when you think about it, you have this guy into the future, assuming that he doesn't leave Purdue. This is a guy that can develop this year. When we talk about what you expect for Purdue this year, I mean, I feel like the ceiling is kind of a bowl game. You have such a hard schedule that 6 wins really is that ceiling. And I'm confident that Ryan Browne can take Purdue to that ceiling after seeing this guy. He's got that mentality. He's not perfect. He doesn't woo you with his athleticism, but he makes the throws. He's able to improvise. We saw several times he got it done on his feet against Notre Dame. That was very open at times, and Ryan Browne has proved that he's capable of being that guy. I'm thoroughly impressed with where Ryan Browne is at, with how he played. And although it didn't result in a win, it's about the process. You play two great teams in USC and Notre Dame in the first 2 weeks. Well, after the two FCS, Ball State, and then FCS opponent Southern Illinois, you have USC to start conference play. Then you play Notre Dame in a conference matchup that is very difficult at South Bend. Those are games that you aren't expected to win, but if you can carry some of the positives, carry some of those going into an Illinois, who we're going to talk about later in the show, they didn't have a good showing. They may be susceptible to getting beat at home. Maybe a Minnesota, a Rutgers, a Northwestern. There are games on this schedule that are winnable. Notre Dame and USC likely aren't winnable, but they showed flashes in both of those games. I saw this Purdue offense show the fight that I didn't see it at all last year. When Notre Dame, they score early, they open up, first play touchdown. Purdue could hang their heads, they could be disappointed, but no, they fire back. Barry Odom creates this crazy trick play on the following possession. Notre Dame, they go up. Purdue fakes a punt on their own side of the field in the first quarter. Just the things like that, it shows you that this team wants to win. That's not what we've seen in the past. And this year, it's such a breath of fresh air just to see a football team that wants to come and compete week to week basis. No matter if you're playing Notre Dame, no matter if you're playing a top team in the country, they're not going to give up. They're going to continue to compete. So that's something that really I took away, and the leader of that mentality is Ryan Browne. I feel like he's fit into Barry Odom's system, Barry Odom being the don't quit, resilient type of guy, and that's kind of transferred over to Ryan Browne. I think that this is a guy that we look senior year, junior year. This is a guy that has the potential to lead the Big Ten in passing yards. He's top 5 right now. Jaden Mayava of USC, he's at the top of that list. This is the list that I think Ryan Browne can get in soon. And I think Ryan Browne's going to be able to carry Purdue to some wins this year. But in order to do that, the running game has to take some pressure off of them. That was my last big takeaway from this Notre Dame game. We saw on the other side of the ball, Notre Dame was able to get whatever they wanted with Price and Love. They were running all the way up the field, averaging over 8 yards per carry, and the defense wasn't able to stop them. So for Purdue, the only way you can win a game like that, if your defense can't stop the run, is to run it yourself. Keep your offense on the field. And just quite frankly, Purdue hasn't been able to do that the last 2 weeks. I bet you if I asked who Purdue's leading rusher is, and y'all didn't have the opportunity to see the box score, you would be very surprised, because Malachi Singleton was actually Purdue's leading rusher in this game. Malachi Singleton had 5 carries late after Ryan Browne was pulled for 26 yards, 5 average per carry. And then the next heaviest rusher, the next leading rusher, Ryan Browne, 6 carries, 18 yards, 3 yards per carry. And then Devin Maccabee, 12 carries for 16 yards, 1.3 yards per carry. And it's not just on Maccabee. Antonio Harris, who has been said, this is going to be the guy that's going to take over after Maccabee. He had 3 carries, 5 yards, 1.7. So limited carries, but these running backs have to get it going. This can't continue. This can't continue going into Minnesota. They have Darius Taylor. They're going to run it all over you. This can't continue going into the later year. You face off against Jonah Coleman in Washington. when you face off against these teams and you can't stop the run, you have to run it yourself. That's the only answer. Purdue didn't do that, and they got beat. So, great game from the Irish. The Irish played their hearts out. They played like they can't lose again, which they can't. I was impressed with Purdue's offense. I was impressed with their ability to continue to show fight after the rain delay, score 30 points in this game. That was really impressive. I'm impressed with Ryan Browne. But the defense absolutely needs to improve. No question about it. All over. That defense has to improve, and Purdue has to get something going in the run game. Purdue loses 56-30. They're 2-2 on the year, but they got a bye week this week. Time to think some stuff over. We'll talk about the bye week, what we want to see. We'll have that here next. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be this hat here from the game. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles fans wore back in the 80s and the 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. When you use code Locked On, you'll get your vintage hat for just $16.99. Head to thegamecaps.com, grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design, and use code Locked On for an exclusive discount. Because legends wear the game. So before the season started, I made my predictions for where Purdue would be. And going into this bye week, I said that the ceiling is 3-1, the floor is 2-2. So I thought that there may be an opportunity for Purdue to upset USC at home. And I knew that the Notre Dame game would probably be a loss. But going out of the bye week, I said, no matter what, you're either going to be 3-2 or 2-3. We're in the bye week now. And the mentality that I used to have coming out of the bye week was that Purdue, they face off against a really good Illinois team. This is going to be an Illinois team that is hot, that is ready to go. And we'll talk about it later in the show, just how bad Illinois looked on Saturday. But that looked like a team that Purdue could handle easily at home at Ross-Ade. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but it gives me a new perspective on the fact that Purdue could still open up this year 3-2. Although they lose to USC and Notre Dame, that's perfect positioning. You win out against Rutgers, Minnesota, and Northwestern. That's 6 wins, 6-2. And what a start that would be for Purdue. But just going into this bye week, I feel like you have a whole renewed perspective on where you are. Obviously, you don't get what you want the past 2 weeks. You don't get the win against USC. You don't get the win against Notre Dame. And outside of it being a close shootout, both those games were multiple score deficits at the end. But for what it's worth, Purdue played about as well as you could expect in a loss. Obviously not from the defensive side against Notre Dame, but that offense has showed so much heart in back-to-back weeks. In week 3, Ryan Browne, he throws 3 interceptions, and then that one pick six that cost Purdue the game. But Ryan Browne, he continues to throw the ball. He continues to work it. He continues to keep that offense churning and not give up. Nobody hangs their heads. Everyone continues to Ryan Browne continues to throw the ball, and everyone continues to try to make plays for him. Going through all 4 quarters, that's what we saw against USC. And against Notre Dame, much of the same. You can't get the running game going once again. So Ryan Browne has to try to make plays happen. And for what it's worth, he did make those plays happen. He didn't give up. Those receivers didn't give up on him. And going into this bye week, I feel like we have a renewed expectation for where Purdue can be. Obviously, the ceiling still remains, but that Illinois game looks different. If you go down the stretch, that last month of the year, it's Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, and then Indiana. So wins are hard to come by. So coming out of this bye week, that's the stretch that you got to start winning games. And for Purdue fans, for Coach Odom, for that program, I feel like after Notre Dame, after USC, you now have the expectation, you now have a feeling that you can start to win some of those games. And it does come down to that offense. For Ryan Browne, he's proved that he's the quarterback. He's proved that he's the starter, and he's garnered a lot of respect from his peers for that. He's shown that he is that guy that Purdue has a player that really cares about the university, really cares about wanting to win. And then for the running back perspective, that's something that needs to get better. It's a spot where you have two guys, and Antonio Harris, a Devin Mockabee, who are both extremely capable. They're both great running backs on their own, but nothing's been done for them. It's not like they've had the opportunity to run against Notre Dame or against USC, two very good front sevens, but when they got the carries, they just couldn't make anything happen. So that needs to improve. The running game needs to improve, but we've seen everything we need from Ryan Browne. And a big surprise that I don't think a lot of people would have seen going into this year is just how productive a lot of these receivers have been, because you have like 3 or 4 guys that can be top receivers for a team. Michael Jackson III, 18 receptions, 211 yards. He had that touchdown. Nitro Tuggle, who was great against Notre Dame, made a huge catch. He had 10 receptions, 189 yards, 3 touchdowns. So he's been Ryan Browne's end zone target. And then Armand Branch, he has kind of been non-existent against USC and Notre Dame. Those two teams have done a good job limiting him. But Armand Branch, 185 yards. EJ Horton Jr., 125 yards. Ryan Browne and the Purdue offense has signaled out they found the receivers that are going to make life easy for Purdue. And this is a great group of receivers that Purdue has, one of the better groups in the Big Ten. And that's something that not a lot of people expected going into this year. That when you look at it, going into the bye week, that's something that we can build on. That's something that we can be happy about. I would take 2-2 any day from a Purdue football perspective if the team has played how they have played up until this point. And they absolutely have. They've proven that they're going to have the ability to beat one of these teams down the stretch, beat multiple teams down the stretch. I think that this is a team that can continue to win games. I think that the first 2 wins, they were expected. Those are teams that you were supposed to beat. But I think that Purdue is going to get at least 1 win when they're underdogs this year. I don't know if that'll happen against Illinois. I don't know if that'll happen against Minnesota. It really just depends. But this team has a lot of talent. It has a lot of potential, especially offensively. But going into this bye week, the focus needs to be on the defense. This defense absolutely has to improve. There's no question about it. There are some good spots on the defense. It's not all bad. There are some guys that have really stood out. Taj Rael, he was a guy that came over from Memphis, got himself into some controversy about some alleged DMs over Instagram, but he's plugged in and he's been elite at the safety spot. He's been the leading tackler, I believe, for Purdue so far this year. Out of that safety spot, he's been really good. A guy who I've been really impressed with has been Manny Powell. He's a linebacker. He's been kind of the face of that linebacker core, 24 tackles, 6 assists, and then 18 solos. He had that huge sack against Ball State, I believe. But when you talk about where this team wasn't good against Notre Dame, I mean, it was stopping the run. So you can say Manny Powell, Charles Carrera, they were good, but you got to continue to stop the run. And whenever those running backs are going, we saw it. CJ Carr, he was able to extend the field deep. First play of the game. And you beat, I believe it was Tony Grimes. And the broadcast, they mentioned Tony Grimes. This is a guy with experience. This is a DB that he's played for a lot of years. He played at UNLV. He followed Barry Odom over to Purdue, and that's a guy that has to be better. We need to really cement ourselves. We need to cement some of these older guys as leaders for this defense and start to build an identity in that. I'm not out on Purdue's defense yet. I think that they had a rough showing against Notre Dame. I think that those DBs got cooked. I think that a lot of older guys haven't shown the leadership that they need to show. Taj Rael's an older guy, but Manny Powell, he's a sophomore. There needs to be a leadership on that defensive side of the ball. Some of these older guys, and albeit they're few and far between, there are 80 new additions to this roster this year. But some of the older guys that came in, some of the older guys that have been here, they need to start cementing an identity on the defensive side of the ball, and that needs to be the priority going into this bye week. Fix the defense, become competent, because Luke Altmaier and the Fighting Illini are coming to town. They didn't look good Saturday. They'll be looking for a bounce back at Ross-Ade. Next week, we'll be talking about it. Can Purdue beat the Illini? We'll have that here next. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. So use it across the app. I love using FanDuel because I can bet however I want. Live bet, future bet, parlays. It doesn't matter. You can do it with FanDuel. That's what makes them the best option. And right now, you can get in with FanDuel. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home. Whether it's your local sports bar, packed on game days, the college shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhoods businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Purdue Team Store, Silver Dipper Ice Cream, R&W, Kona Ice of Midwest Indiana, Vault Lounge, Bar and Billiards, the 11th House. These are all examples, and there are so many more of businesses that use Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/lockedoncollege to learn more, but before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spots. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. So Purdue loses Saturday against Notre Dame, but I'm sure Purdue fans feel a lot better about where their team's at. I feel like Purdue fans feel a lot better about their team's performance than what Illini fans do, because Saturday, Illinois, they went into Bloomington to play the Hoosiers and absolutely laid a dud. They fall 10-63 to Indiana. And I know that we saw that last year for Purdue, but that was a team that was 1-10 going into Indiana. This Illinois team is a team that had Big Ten championship expectations, that had college football playoff expectations. And this is a team that's been hyped to the moon, by myself included. I thought that Illinois, led by Luke Altmaier, led by Brett Bielema, I thought that that would be a team that would be able to go into anywhere and find success. But Indiana proved that wasn't the case. And for Purdue, you're on a bye week this week, but you face off against that team next week at Ross-Ade. And my question is, I still expect Purdue to be a underdog. I guess it kind of depends on what Illinois does this Saturday against USC. But for Purdue, I really think that you have the opportunity to upset or beat Illinois at home. This is a team that is struggling. You're coming off your bye week for Barry Odom and Purdue. This is going to be a team that's refreshed, going up against a team that's searching for answers. And they drop 10-63 against Indiana. That's a huge loss. And the win against Duke has really been described as this is what makes this Illinois team a contender. And I disagree, because Duke isn't that good. They're 1-3 now. Illinois, they don't have any noticeable wins that really move the needle. This has been a team that they played against their first-ranked opponent, and they lose 10-63. Illinois has all the preseason hype. Illinois has been predicted to blow out Purdue in that Week 6 matchup since early preseason. Illinois has been so hyped up. But following the loss to Indiana, is that just hype? Is there still any legitimacy that this Illinois team is capable of winning games? I mean, we're going to have to see it. We're going to have to see them against USC, how they play. And then I feel like, in general, Purdue has a good shot in that one. Purdue has a good shot to trade out that USC loss. Purdue has a good chance to throw out that Notre Dame loss. If you're able to bounce back against Illinois, you have your easiest stretch of the season after that. You're 3-2, and the expectations for this team, for the final record of the Purdue Boilermakers, absolutely shift quickly. This Illinois-Purdue matchup has turned into one of the biggest games on Purdue's schedule all year. You have the opportunity to take advantage of a team looking for answers. And for Purdue, coming off a bye week, you have answers. You're confident in the ability that your offense showed against not just Notre Dame, but at times against USC. If you can limit the turnovers, you have a real chance to upset Illinois at Ross-Ade. And that's an opportunity that not a lot of people thought that Purdue would have just 2 weeks ago. Purdue is in prime position, and when Illinois comes to town, there may be an opportunity for Purdue to win that one. And Illinois fans, they understand that too. Illinois laid an absolute dud in Bloomington, and that's going to be a win that they have to bounce back from. I think that all eyes should be on Illinois versus USC this Saturday to kind of see, is this an Illinois team that had a bad game but can still live up to the hype, or is this an Illinois team that was hyped up and doesn't have any answers for Big Ten play this year? I think that there will be a lot more clarity after Illinois takes on USC, but I don't think Illinois beating USC makes Purdue's chances of winning any less. I think that Purdue has the opportunity to really catch lightning in a bottle here. They showed a good performance, albeit bad on the defensive side. That offense was hot against Notre Dame. You can carry that into the bye week, work on the defense during the bye week, keep that offense hot. You beat Illinois, and then you face off against Minnesota, Rutgers, and Northwestern. I don't mean to be boiler-headed or anything. I don't mean to have a bias, but when you show me that schedule, when you show me what Purdue has done, I have no reason to think that Purdue can't win 4 in a row. And that may be a bit of a hot take, but Purdue honestly does have a chance to beat Illinois, Minnesota, Rutgers, Northwestern in that order. They have a chance to do it 2 times at home, I believe. Purdue's in a good spot right now. I hate to say that coming off 2 losses, but I'm sure if you showed a lot of people the results of these games, I'm sure if you showed a lot of people Purdue's next 4, they'd be happy with where Purdue is. Factor in you have one of the up-and-coming quarterbacks in this league in Ryan Browne. I'd be happy with where Purdue's at. Purdue has a real opportunity to capitalize on opportunities that they've been given this year. You work out the defense this week, you work out some of the bugs on offense, make sure that you're maintaining smart decision-making, not turning the ball over. The penalties haven't been too bad so far this year. Purdue's been a fairly disciplined football team. There's not much I can complain about. Purdue has played 2 teams that, quite frankly, have had more talent on the field than the Boilermakers do. One of those games on one of the hardest stadiums to play in, on the road, both of those games with huge delays in the middle. That throws off your rhythm if you're a young team. Purdue has had to face so much adversity through 4 weeks of football, and they've constantly fought back. This is a team that has raised my expectations, not just for this year, but going into the future. You lose against USC, you lose against Notre Dame, but you have the opportunity for a statement win week 6 at home against Illinois. I think Purdue has a chance. Over the next week and a half, we're going to have a lot of things answered regarding that game. I think that there's an opportunity. While I do expect Purdue to be the underdog in this one, I think that by that game, if Illinois can't show up against USC, that it's almost an even spread. I don't know how far Illinois is going to fall, but they may just fall into Ross-Ade, and they may just fall into a hungry Purdue Boilermaker team. We'll see. But I appreciate you guys joining me. I'm not the one to ask, but I do appreciate if you guys are seeing me for the first time, if you guys are just now seeing the show, please do like and subscribe. Comment. It helps us out a ton here on Locked On. We want to continue bringing you guys daily Boilermaker content. And honestly, just an exciting moment for Locked On. We've always got exciting things going on. But Locked On, they partnered up with Fire TV to bring out college football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12. He leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Thank you guys for joining me today. And as always, bowler up, hammer down.